I'm Wayne Pacelle of the Humane Society of the United States. I want to thank each and every one of you for being here. And a special thanks to Chairman Ray Hall and Melinda and to Billy Sue for being here as well. Thank you so much. You know, there's always in America, and I think especially now, a hostility to Washington. I mean, there's always a tension that has existed. And I think that we really must avoid the idea of painting with a broad brush because there are outstanding public servants who really, who like Chairman Ray Hall, you know, give of themselves a great deal, working as chairman, which is a full-time job, working for his congressional district, having the seniority that he has so many responsibilities. And amidst all those responsibilities, he has not forgotten about the animals. We have asked him to answer the call to defend the buffalo and the horses and the sharks and the primates and all these other creatures, and he has answered that call. And it does matter who serves in public office. And I'm reminded of that all the time. Last year, we were graced to have Chairman John Conyers of the Judiciary Committee, another stalwart advocate for animals, and we had Jim Moran. These gentlemen are chairing the committees that have the biggest influence on animal welfare policy, and we are very, very lucky to have them. And I was awfully glad that Chairman Ray Hall mentioned a few words about Senator Byrd. Senator Byrd grew up, he was a butcher as a young man. He grew up in poverty in rural West Virginia. And as he got older, he developed such a keen sensitivity to animals, a deep love and appreciation for animals. And as Chairman Ray Hall said, spoke about all of these creatures being important in the eyes of God. And every one of these creatures deserving of moral consideration. And he not only spoke about Billy Byrd, his dog, but he spoke about some of the really tough issues. He spoke about the slaughter of animals. He was very moved by a piece in the Washington Post some years ago called "They Died Piece by Piece." And he talked about industrial agriculture. And he said, animal cruelty abounds. It is sickening. It is infuriating. Barbaric treatment of helpless, defenseless creatures must not be tolerated, even if these animals are being raised for food. And even more so, such insensitivity is insidious and can spread and is dangerous. Life must be respected and dealt with humanely in a civilized society. So as I told Summer Wyatt, our West Virginia director, West Virginia is very lucky to have had these public servants, and Chairman Ray Hall and Senator Byrd, and we're really we live now in the early part of the 21st century at a very odd moment in history when it comes to animals. Because on the one hand, we have all of this love and appreciation and fascination for animals, manifest by 171 million dogs and cats in our homes. 2/3 of households have dogs and cats. There's $47 billion that is spent on our pets in this country every year. There are tens of billions spent more watching wildlife and appreciating wildlife. 75 million wildlife watchers in America. We have Animal Planet on television. We have a surge in publishing on animal issues. And you would find very few people anywhere who would say that cruelty to animals is acceptable. In fact, all 50 states have laws against cruelty to animals, and it's a felony offense in 46 states to needlessly and gratuitously harm animals. So we have all of that to the good, and all of that is kind of a cultural backdrop for our work at HSUS and at Farm Sanctuary and all of the other groups represented here tonight and the 10,000 other animal welfare groups in the country, which is an incredible statement about the penetration of these values in our country that philanthropy and charity can support more than 10,000 organizations devoted to protecting dogs and cats and rabbits and animals in laboratories and farm animals and animals in entertainment, and so many different arenas. For every animal there is an advocate, and for every animal there is an organization devoted to righting the circumstance. But at the same time, in this very same culture, where all of this good exists, there's also a lot of bad. There is industrial agriculture and factory farming of animals. There are puppy mills. There are organized animal fights. There's killing of animals in canned hunts and in fox pens. And I could go on, and I know all of you know about the incredible varieties of abuse that exist in this country. I mean, how can this exist in our society? All of this harm and exploitation, yet all of this goodness for animals. One force or the other has to win out. And I think all of us are here tonight, and all of us are here for the weeks and months and years ahead in this battle to see that this set of ideas prevails in society. But the use of animals is intertwined in our culture. I mean, whether it's food, or whether it's products in the marketplace, or whether it's clothing, or whether it's forms of entertainment, the use of animals has been part of our country for a long time. And especially in the industrial era, we've begun to think of animals like objects and commodities and things, not as individual living beings. And our challenge is to turn that around and to have people recognize that all of these creatures have the same spark of life. They all want to live just as badly as we want to live. And they may not be our equals in terms of intelligence or the ability to write poetry or novels or have the great innovations in technology that are hallmarks of our species, but they are our equals in the capacity to suffer. And it is precisely because of our intelligence and because of our altruism that we should be good to the least among us. And that is the spirit that motivates the work for each and every one of us. That we're using our power for the good, protecting these other creatures not because we must, but because it's the right thing to do. Not seeing them as economic instrumentalities or tools for research or units of production or a set of targets out in the wild, but as beings who have their own families and their own lives and who just kind of want to get along and do their thing. And I know that this is something that we can do as a species. I know it's something that we can do as a nation and as a global community, that we can be better to these creatures. And things, while they are bad for animals, are getting better because I see the change every day in my position as president of HSUS. Every day I see progress. Whether it's all 50 states with felony level penalties against dogfighting, which just happened a couple of years ago, or new felony legislation in Congress on animal fighting, or whether it's the ballot initiatives that are being approved by overwhelming margins in the states to combat factory farming, or the states that are passing anti-puppy mill legislation, or giving us a rousing reception when we raid a puppy mill operation or a dogfighting operation in the states, as the number of seals plummets, in terms of the number of seals killed plummets, as markets are constricted throughout the world because people don't want these products. Those are the signs of change for us that each and every one of us should take heart in. Every one of us is, I think, gripped by this idea of all the animal suffering out there, and sometimes we're overwhelmed by it. But we have to refuel ourselves by seeing the change that is occurring. You know, and I think it's also important to remember that concern for animals is not just a modern invention of this century or the 20th century or even the 19th century when the first humane organizations were formed. You can look back through all of human history and see that in many ways we were connected to animals, even in activities that are now seen as very